everyone, Princess Flamingo here. Hope you're all doing wonderful today. Today we are talking about the Atlantic and Pacific Bermuda Triangle. Yeah, that's right. The most scariest thing off the coast of Florida has doubled and went to Tokyo. So let's get into it.
The ocean is a scary place on its own, but we're going to talk about a few more that make it even more creepy. The first location we're going to talk about is the Bermuda Triangle. Everyone has heard about it, but it's off the coast of Florida. The story goes that ship and planes go missing, sometimes without a trace, other times just found with no life on them. Since 1930, more than 325 planes and more than 1,200 ships have disappeared, crashed, or sunk. Some may be human error or nature acting up, but not all of the accidents. Around the 16th century, Juan de Bermudez first documented the island, saying they were uninhabited. The islands were named after him. Believe it or not, Christopher Columbus was the first to ever write about the Bermuda Triangle weirdness. In 1492, he noted that there was strange dancing lights on the horizon and flames in the sky. He also wrote about usual compass bearings as they passed through. In 1515, another explorer, Gonzalo Fernández de Oviedo y Valdez, wrote about the island, attributing their discovery to Juan de Bermudez. He said that sailors avoided the island due to the night calls of the cahowbird, which scared them. Another explorer was Samuel de Champlain, wrote that the mountain is hard to get near cause of all the danger around it. He also wrote about heavy rains and thunderstorms. They seems to never stop. We are not going through the entire history of Bermuda Triangle. We will be here forever, so we will talk about the most bizarre cases. In March of 1918, a ship called USS Cyclops was about 550 feet long with 306 people and 10,800 tons of manganese aboard. It was coming from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, heading to Baltimore, Maryland. After they left Rio, making an unplanned stop in Barbados to resupply for fuel, and among other things that were needed, causing her to be weighed down even more due to the water being over the Plimsoll line. The Plimsoll line is a safety feature on ships, indicating the maximum depth a ship can be loaded. The ship was expected to arrive in Baltimore on the 13th. The Cyclops was seen by a tanker Amulco on the 9th off the coast of Virginia. On March 10th, a huge destructive storm rolled in. To this day, there has been no trace of the ship or the crew, even though the area was searched. This is the greatest non-combat loss of life in the life of the US naval history. Theories is that the Cyclops suffered structural failures like the corrosion of beams due to the chemical nature of some cargo, which was happened to her sister ships. The most well-known case is Flight 19, when 5 US Navy Avenger torpedo bombers left Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a 3-hour exercise in December 1945. Charles C. Taylor was convinced the compass was not working and they were flying in the wrong direction. To make things even worse, a storm covered them, making them even more confused. Charles thought they were over the Florida Keys, but that wasn't possible since he was over Hen and Chickens Shoal in the Bahamas less than an hour ago, but he was sure his plane somehow drifted hundreds of miles off course. In the background, they could hear the other men trying to decide whether to fly east or west. Charles's last words were him yelling at the men to prepare for an ocean landing, cause they were out of gas. Then nothing but static came through. The Navy sent out a pair of PBM Mariner seaplanes to rescue Flight 19. They followed their footsteps, and soon they too disappeared, never to be seen again. On January 28, 1948, the British South American Airlines passenger plane Star Tigers was about to leave. Captain Brian W. Macmillan ordered everyone off the place because of a problem with one of 2 engines. 2.5 hours later, the passengers got back on heading to Santa Maria. They made it no trouble, but because of the weather, Captain Macmillan postponed the second half of their trip to Bermuda. The next day they continued their trip to Bermuda. Unfortunately, the winds were still strong, so they believe the captain kept the plane below 2,000 feet to avoid the worst of it. There were no distress calls or answers to their attempt to reach them. The USAF launched a 5-day rescue operation, but nothing was found of the 31 people aboard or the plane. In 1954, a U.S. military carrier aircraft full of naval officers and their family disappeared. They were leaving Maryland to Larges. A total of 42 people, and the plane just vanished. There was no distress calls made or none that got through. Sadly, there was nothing ever found, so we don't know what happened. In December 1967, Captain Dan took his ship Witchcraft offshore just enough to the Christmas lights. Around 9 p.m. he radioed that he hit something, but he didn't think it was too bad and needed a tow back in. He even lit some flares. It took the Coast Guard 20 minutes to get to the area he said he was, but the ship was gone along with the people aboard. On December 28, 2020, a ship with 20 people called Marco Cuddy cabin vessel left Bimini heading for Lake Worth Beach, Florida. The weather was good, and there was no distress signal sent. When the Marco failed to arrive as planned, a family member of one of the people on the ship alerted the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard searched 17,000 square miles for over 84 hours but never found any trace of the ship or people. Popular theories about the Bermuda Triangle are that there is something paranormal about it. Others think that aliens abduct people and the ships or planes. Some think that it's a magnetic field that is extremely powerful to mess with equipment. Some suggest that a comet caused this. One of my personal favorites is that the lost city of Atlantis crystal is still active and messes with ships and planes. Some think that there is a time tunnel or electronic fog causing people to be thousands of miles off course. Another theory is that the America's Atlantic Undersea Test and Evaluation Center, or the AUKTEC base, is located there. They say that the government works with aliens, and the base is where aliens test their technology. Did you know that the Pacific Ocean also has a Bermuda Triangle off the coast of Japan, the Philippines, and Guam? They called it the Devil's Sea or Dragon's Triangle. They say that a dragon lives in that water attacking anything. Ships and planes that had gone missing without a trace here, and it has unpredictable weather. In 1281, Mongol hordes were on their way to attack Japan but went through the triangle, sinking 900 ships and 40,000 soldiers. They say that two storms meet at the triangle, but the legend goes that the divine winds called upon the emperor. Between the 1940s and 1950s, I couldn't find the exact ships' names or anything about them, but it is said during this time that many fishing boats and 5 military ships went missing. In 1942, a Japanese pilot, Toshi Akilang, while fighting the US forces, saw a huge sea monster in the Devil's Sea. The monster swam through the waters quickly with its head about water. It was 150 feet long and had 2 huge triangular wings that helped it swim through the fighting. In August of 1945, a long-range fighter plane piloted by Shirao Kawamoto went missing in the area toward the end of World War II, and his final message that got through was something is happening in the sky. The sky is opening up. On September 24, 1952, a research boat called Kiyomaru No. 5 with a crew of 31. They went out that day to resurvey the submarine topography near an eruption zone around an underwater volcano. No one was ever found from the ship, but some wreckage was found later on, making people believe that the boat was hit during the underwater volcano's explosion. Some theories is the same as the Bermuda Triangle, but the only difference is they think the underwater volcanoes and shifting tectonic plates may be a reason for the unexplained events.
So now that you heard the stories, which one do you think is scarier, the Atlantic or the Pacific version? I honestly think the Pacific version kind of sounds a bit scarier, seeing how it took out a whole freaking army. And the Atlantic version it takes out people slowly, one by one. So maybe it's coming for all of us. I don't know. But I hope y'all have a good one. I'll see y'all next time. Later.